In the heart of the Galactic Council, a grand room filled with alien leaders from many different worlds buzzed with tension. The room was vast, with bright lights shining down on the long table where the council members sat. Each alien represented their home planet, and their faces showed a mix of fear, excitement, and curiosity. They had gathered to discuss a new problem, the rising power of humans. At the front of the room stood Ambassador Vexar, a tall, green-skinned alien with sharp features and a commanding presence. He adjusted his shimmering robe and looked around the room. The council members were restless, whispering among themselves. Vexar knew he had to grab their attention. "Silence!" Vexar's voice echoed in the chamber. The room quickly quieted down as all eyes turned to him. "Today I present a grave warning about the humans of Earth." He activated a holographic projector, and images of humans and their technology filled the air above the table. The first image showed a human warship, sleek and powerful. "This is the HMS Victory, one of their strongest ships," Vexar explained. "They have been developing weapons that can destroy entire fleets. Look how fast they build these machines." Some council members gasped, their eyes wide with shock. Others leaned back, crossing their arms, scoffing at the idea. "Humans? Are they really a threat?" one alien asked, its voice dripping with doubt. It was Counselor Rel, a blue-skinned creature known for its sharp tongue. "Yes," Vexar insisted, pointing at the next image, which showed a human soldier in heavy armor standing proudly with a rifle in hand. "These soldiers are trained for war. They have faced great dangers and have always emerged stronger. We cannot underestimate them." Rel chuckled, shaking its head.
They are just a young species.
"They do not know the ways of the galaxy. Why should we fear them?" Vexar felt his frustration rising but remained calm. "Because they are not as weak as you think. They have the ability to surprise us. If we do not act, they could invade our territories. We must prepare for the worst." At the mention of invasion, murmurs filled the room again. Some aliens looked worried while others began to discuss their own plans for defense. A heated debate erupted. "We must gather our forces and strike before they can attack us," suggested General Thrax, a war-hardened alien with a scar running across its face. But before the discussion could escalate, a young alien diplomat, Lyra, stood up. She was small but fierce, with bright purple skin and large, expressive eyes. "Wait," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "What if we tried to talk to the humans instead? We cannot let fear guide our decisions. Diplomacy could be our best option." The room fell silent again. All eyes turned to Lyra, who felt the weight of their gazes. "Maybe they do not want war. Maybe they want to trade, to learn from us. We should at least try to understand them before we decide to fight." Vexar nodded thoughtfully, appreciating her courage, but also sensing the danger in her words. "While I respect your view, young Lyra, we must also be realistic. History shows that waiting too long can lead to disaster." Just as the council was about to descend into chaos, a loud alarm blared throughout the chamber. The lights flickered, and an emergency hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a map of the galaxy with blinking red lights indicating human ships moving closer to their borders. "Look!" Vexar shouted, pointing at the screen. "They are already here. We must decide now. Will we prepare for war, or will we risk everything on a chance for peace?" The tension in the room grew thick as council members exchanged worried glances. Each alien understood the weight of the choice before them. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the warning had been sounded. As the meeting continued, it was clear the council was at a crossroads, and their next move could change everything. On Earth, in a high-security military base hidden deep underground, leaders gathered to discuss the news from the Galactic Council. The room was filled with important people, including generals, scientists, and advisors. The air was thick with worry as everyone exchanged glances, knowing that danger was coming. General Mitchell, a tall man with a strong jaw and a serious face, stood at the front of the room. He looked tired but determined. "We have received alarming reports about the alien ambassador's warning," he said, gripping the edge of the table. "The aliens believe we are a threat, and they are preparing for war." The room erupted into chatter. "We can't let them attack us," shouted Admiral Harris, a fierce woman with sharp features. "We need to show them we are ready to fight." General Mitchell raised his hand for silence. "I agree, but we must be smart. We have to understand their capabilities before we act. They have powerful technology, and we cannot underestimate them." In the corner, Dr. Emily Carter, a brilliant scientist with messy hair and glasses, spoke up. We have been working on new weapons and defenses. I believe we can stand against them if we act quickly." Her voice was calm, but everyone could see her passion. General Mitchell nodded, encouraging her to continue. "What do you have in mind, Dr. Carter?" Dr. Carter stepped forward and activated a holographic projector. A 3D model of a sleek, powerful spaceship appeared in the center of the room. "This is the Guardian," she announced proudly. "It is equipped with advanced shields and weapons. With its speed and agility, it can outmaneuver most alien ships." The leaders stared at the hologram in awe. The design was impressive, and the potential of this ship gave them hope. "We can begin construction immediately," Dr. Carter continued. "If we hurry, we can have a fleet ready before the aliens reach our borders." Admiral Harris smiled, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Let's make this happen. We need to gather our best pilots and engineers. They will need to train with this new technology. Time is not on our side." The generals and scientists nodded in agreement, and the atmosphere in the room shifted from fear to determination. They had a plan, and they would fight for their planet. Meanwhile, in another part of the base, the best pilots were gathered for a special briefing. Among them was Captain Jake Sullivan, a young but skilled pilot known for his daring maneuvers in the air. He stood in front of a group of eager faces, ready to share the news. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said, his voice firm. "We are facing a serious threat from the aliens. They think they can intimidate us, but we are going to show them what humans are made of." Cheers erupted from the pilots, their spirits lifting. Jake smiled, knowing that they were ready for the challenge. "We are going to train hard and learn to use the new ships. We need to be prepared for anything. If we work together, we can protect our planet." As the pilots began to discuss strategies, Jake felt a sense of pride. They were all dedicated to their mission, ready to stand against any enemy. Back in the main briefing room, General Mitchell and Dr. Carter reviewed the plans for the new fleet. "We need to gather all resources and prioritize this project," General Mitchell said. "Every factory must focus on building these ships. We cannot afford to waste time." Dr. Carter agreed. "I will coordinate with the engineers and scientists. We will need to run tests to ensure the technology works perfectly. The success of our mission depends on it." As the days went by, humans worked tirelessly. Engineers built ships, pilots trained hard, and scientists developed new weapons. The atmosphere was electric with excitement and fear. Every person knew they were preparing for a battle that could change the fate of their world. One night, as Jake looked out over the base from the control tower, he saw the silhouettes of the new ships against the stars. He felt a mix of hope and fear. He knew the aliens were coming, but he also knew humanity would not go down without a fight. They were ready to defend their home. With determination in their hearts and strength in their minds, humans prepared for the storm ahead. The time for action was near, and they would not back down. In the vastness of space, a neutral space station floated between Earth and the alien worlds. This station was a place where both humans and aliens could meet to discuss peace. Tension filled the air as representatives from both sides prepared for the talks. Ambassador Vexar, the green-skinned alien, arrived first. He walked with confidence, his robe flowing behind him. His mind raced with thoughts of the coming negotiations. He believed that the best way to protect his people was to strike first, but he also understood that peace was worth exploring. As Vexar entered the large meeting room, he was greeted by human envoy Sarah Reynolds. She was a strong woman with short brown hair and a determined look in her eyes. Sarah had been chosen to represent Earth in these important talks. She believed in the power of diplomacy and hoped to find a way to avoid war. "Welcome, Ambassador Vexar," Sarah said, extending her hand for a handshake. Vexar hesitated, but then took her hand, feeling the strength in her grip. "Thank you, Envoy Reynolds," Vexar replied, his voice steady. "I hope we can reach an understanding today." The two took their seats at the long table, each surrounded by advisors and security personnel. The atmosphere was tense as both sides prepared for a long day of discussions. Sarah started the meeting by outlining her hopes for peace. "We must find common ground," she said. "War will only bring suffering to both our people. Let's talk about trade, technology, and cooperation." Vexar listened carefully, nodding at times. "Your words are wise, but I cannot ignore the threat humans pose to my people," he responded. "We have seen your military buildup. It worries us." Sarah frowned but remained calm. "We are preparing for defense, not for war. Our goal is to protect our planet. We do not want conflict. We simply want to be left alone. As the discussions continued, Vexar presented his concerns about human expansion. Your species has a history of exploration and conquest. How can we trust that you will not invade our worlds? Sarah took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. I understand your fear, but not all humans seek conquest. Many of us wish to explore and learn. We can share knowledge and resources without fighting. The room grew quiet as both sides considered her words. Vexar felt a spark of hope, but remained skeptical. You speak of peace, yet the actions of your leaders suggest otherwise. We need guarantees. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes locked on Vexar's. What if we agree to a treaty? A promise not to attack each other and to share technology for mutual benefit? We could establish a council to oversee our agreements. Vexar raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the idea. A council? That is an interesting proposal. But how can I trust you to keep your promises? Sarah smiled, sensing an opportunity. Let's create a joint task force with representatives from both sides. They can monitor our activities and ensure compliance. If either side breaks the treaty, there will be consequences. Vexar considered her words carefully. He knew that trust would take time, but he felt a glimmer of possibility. Very well, I will discuss this with my advisors. Just as they began to feel hopeful, the alarms on the space station suddenly blared. The lights flickered and a voice crackled over the intercom. Emergency! Human ships detected approaching the station. Panic swept through the room. Sarah and Vexar exchanged worried glances. What is happening? She asked, her heart racing. Vexar pressed a button on the table, bringing up a holographic display. The screen showed multiple human warships moving toward the station, weapons primed and ready. This could be a trap, he said, his voice tense. We must prepare for defense. No! Sarah shouted, feeling the urgency. We need to find out what's going on. This is the moment we cannot let slip away. As alarms continued to sound as Sarah and Vexar quickly decided to work together, they agreed to investigate the situation and prevent any misunderstandings from escalating into violence. In that moment, both knew that peace was fragile and they must act fast. The talks had begun, but now they faced a new challenge. Trust would be tested, and the fate of their worlds hung in the balance. Would they stand together against a common threat, or would fear drive them apart? Tension hung thick in the air as the alarms blared throughout the space station. Sarah Reynolds and Ambassador Vexar stood side by side, their eyes glued to the holographic display showing the approaching human warships. The situation was dire, and both knew they had to act quickly. Who ordered the ships to approach? Sarah asked, her voice tense. Vexar shook his head, concern etched on his face. I don't know. This could ruin everything we've worked for. Just then, a loud bang echoed through the room as the door burst open. General Mitchell stormed in, his face pale and eyes wide. Envoy Reynolds, we have a situation. One of our ships is launching an attack on the aliens. Sarah's heart sank. What? Why would they do that? The order came from the top, General Mitchell replied, his voice grim. Some of our leaders believe that war is the only option. They think it's too late for peace. Vexar's expression hardened. If your ships attack, it will start a war. We must stop this before it's too late. Agreed, Sarah said, her mind racing. But how do we stop the attack? General Mitchell thought for a moment. We need to contact the ships directly. If we can convince them to stand down, we might still have a chance. Let's do it, Vexar said, determination in his voice. Together they moved to the control panel. Sarah quickly worked the controls to establish communication with the warships. The screen flickered, and a stern-faced commander appeared. This is Commander Blake. What's the emergency? Commander, you must listen, Sarah urged. We are negotiating with the aliens. If you attack now, you will destroy any chance of peace. Peace? Commander Blake scoffed. The aliens cannot be trusted. We need to show strength, not weakness. Strength through violence will only lead to destruction, Vexar added, his voice firm. You will start a war that will cost countless lives. For a moment, there was silence on the other end. The commander's expression shifted, but doubt still lingered. I have my orders. I can't disobey them. Then let us help you, General Mitchell interrupted. Join forces with us to stop this attack. We can work together to avoid a disaster. Finally, after a tense pause, Commander Blake relented. Fine, I'll give you a chance, but we don't have much time. As the team prepared to send a message to the warships, chaos erupted outside. The sounds of explosions and blaring sirens filled the air. A wave of panic washed over Sarah as she realized the battle had begun. "Everyone, we need to get to the control room," she shouted. The three of them rushed to the main console, where they could see the conflict unfolding through the view screen. Human and alien ships clashed in the darkness of space, firing lasers and missiles at each other. "Get those shields up!" General Mitchell yelled, his voice commanding. The crew scrambled to follow his orders, but the damage was already done. One alien ship was hit, its hull bursting into flames. Sarah's heart sank as she watched the destruction. "We have to intervene!" Sarah cried. "We can't let this escalate further!" Vexar nodded, determination in his eyes. "I will send a signal to my fleet. They must understand that we seek peace, not war." "Do it now!" General Mitchell urged. As Vexar worked the controls, Sarah felt a mix of fear and hope. Could they really turn the tide? Just then, the display showed a massive alien cruiser entering the battle zone. It was larger and more powerful than anything they had seen before. "What is that?" Sarah gasped. "That is the Dreadnought, the flagship of my fleet," Vexar exclaimed. "They have come to defend us, but they might not understand our intentions." Vexar sent a message urging the Dreadnought to hold back. As the alien cruiser approached, both sides hesitated, unsure of what would happen next. The battlefield was filled with tension, and everyone was on edge. Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the space, and the Dreadnought fired its weapons. Sarah's heart raced as she watched, but instead of attacking the human ships, the Dreadnought shot directly into the void, creating a warning shot. "Look!" General Mitchell pointed at the screen. The human ships paused, confusion spreading among them. "They're showing strength without causing harm." In that moment, Sarah seized the opportunity. "Now is our chance! We must appeal to their better nature. Let's send a message of peace before it's too late." As they worked together, Vexar and Sarah hoped against hope that their combined efforts would lead to an end of the violence and a path toward peace. The battlefield was silent. After the bright flash from the Dreadnought, both human and alien ships hovered in space, unsure of what would happen next. Sarah Reynolds and Ambassador Vexar watched from the control room, their hearts pounding in their chests. "Will they understand our message?" Sarah asked, her eyes fixed on the view screen, where the human and alien ships remained locked in a standoff. Vexar, his green skin glowing under the dim lights, nodded slowly. "They must. If we can show them that we seek peace, they may listen." Just then, the communication panel lit up. Commander Blake's face appeared on the screen, looking anxious. "Envoy Reynolds!" "What just happened?" "We saw the Dreadnought fire, but it did not attack us." "What does it mean?" "It means they want peace, just like us," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "But we need to act fast. If we don't, this could escalate into an all-out war." Commander Blake hesitated, glancing at the chaos outside. "What do you propose?" "We need to negotiate a ceasefire," Sarah suggested. "Let's send a message to both sides asking everyone to stand down. We can explain that this is a moment for peace, not conflict." "Agreed," Vexar added, his eyes bright with hope. "If we can unite our forces, we can prevent more destruction." The commander nodded, determination filling his expression. "I'll send the message right away, but we need to be quick." As Commander Blake's team worked to send out the ceasefire message, Sarah and Vexar focused on their own ship's communication system. "We must show our strength and unity," Vexar said. "Together, we can build a new alliance." Minutes passed like hours as they waited for a response. The silence in the control room was heavy with tension. Suddenly, the view screen lit up again, showing the faces of leaders from both the human fleet and the alien Dreadnought. "Attention all ships," a voice boomed. "This is a message from Envoy Reynolds and Ambassador Vexar. We call for a ceasefire. We seek to create a new alliance for peace between our people." The leaders on the screen looked uncertain but intrigued. Commander Blake continued, "We understand that fear drives us to fight, but we must learn to trust each other if we are to survive." As the message spread across the fleets, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. "Will they listen?" she asked, glancing at Vexar. "We must believe they will," he replied, his voice strong. Just then, the view screen changed again, showing a meeting of both human and alien leaders. One of the alien commanders spoke first, his tone cautious but curious. "You ask for peace, but how can we trust humans after this attack?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Trust takes time, but we must take the first step together. Let us join forces against a common enemy, the fear that drives us apart." Another alien leader nodded. "We too have suffered losses today. This fighting must end." Commander Blake chimed in. Together, we can protect our worlds and explore the universe without fear. We can learn from each other. As discussions continued, a wave of relief washed over the room. It was clear that both sides wanted peace. Slowly, the tension began to melt away. Each leader took turns speaking, sharing their hopes and fears. Hours passed, and by the end of the meeting, a new agreement had formed. They called it the Galactic Peace Accord. The accord stated that both sides would work together for mutual protection, trade knowledge and technology, and prevent any acts of aggression. When the meeting ended, cheers erupted from both sides. Sarah and Vexar exchanged proud smiles, feeling the weight of the moment. They had come together when it seemed impossible. "Today, we have made history," Vexar said, his voice full of emotion. "This is just the beginning of a new alliance." Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with hope. "Together we can create a brighter future." As they looked out at the stars, the darkness seemed a little less frightening. The ships that once faced each other with weapons drawn now floated peacefully side by side. It was a sign that change was possible. The battle was over, and a new chapter had begun. Humans and aliens had chosen to stand together, united by their shared desire for peace. They were no longer enemies, they were allies, ready to explore the universe side by side. As Sarah and Vexar watched the stars, they knew that the road ahead would not always be easy. But they were determined to face it together, forging bonds that would last for generations to come.